So it's time to get that mist coat on, and when I say mist coat, that's just a fancy word for your first coat of paint. And if you want to see how to do this in more detail, I have done a video on how to do a mist coat. A link to that video will pop up on the screen now, and I'll put a link to that video in the description section below. So for mixing the paint, we need a few different tools. A paddle mixer, a drill to turn the paddle mixer. We're going to need a bucket to hold our clean water, ideally one with measuring marks on the side so we can calculate the volume of water we're using. A paint scuttle for mixing and holding our paint. That said, if you want to mix it in a bucket, which is slightly easier, then you can have two buckets, one for water, one for paint, and then pour it into the scuttle. I'm just saving on washing up. Then for applying your paint, you're going to need a basic roller, a set of roller sleeves. You could use a painting tray like this if you want. As I just mentioned, I'm going to use the paint scuttle for that. You're going to want a set of paint brushes just for cutting into the corners. And as always, I'll put links to all the products and tools I use in the video in the description section below. This is Crown White Matte Emulsion that I picked up on offer. I got this for £10 a tub. With my discount, it was £9 a tub. As it says there, if you're painting new plaster, seal the surface by adding a coat of paint diluted with up to 40% of clean water. Now when you open your paint, it's also a good idea to give this a stir first, just to ensure it's well mixed before adding it to your scuttle. And you can use anything to do this, but just make sure it's clean and doesn't have dust all over it, because you obviously don't want that in your paint. Now I'm just going to take my paintbrush, just paint that back into the pot. So now I'm going to pour the paint up to the 3 litre mark in the scuttle. And just use your brush to wipe off any excess off the tub, like that. Now I'm going to add the 2 litres of water to the paint. And occasionally you can turn the drill onto reverse and rotate the other way. I'm going to get some paint on the brush and I'm going to cut into all the corners. Then I'm going to go over the bulk of the wall with a roller. If you are trying to get in tight gaps like up there in the corner, you can just buy a smaller mini roller like that. So I had a late one last night. I was trying to paint the rest of this with only a few lights on up here. So today I'm on the evil Red Bull because I need a bit of an energy kick. So now I'm going to crack on with the rest of the painting. And Red Bull, if you're looking to start sponsoring DIY, you know, I'm your man. Now the first coat of paint is all done. You see how the room starts to look a lot bigger once you've got all the white on it and all that plaster's gone. I haven't done out there yet on the sort of landing area, if you like, or down the stairs. And you can see it looks a bit darker. You get these nice light walls, and even in the small space under there that's a bit dark normally, it's brightened it right up. Okay, so today we're just going to be doing a bit of prep work on the skirting boards, architrave and the walls. Now, as you saw previously, I put on my mist coat, or my first coat of paint, which was watered down straight onto the plaster. I then did a second coat, which I didn't film, because let's face it, you don't want to watch that, it's boring. So I've now got 2 coats of paint on the wall, a good solid white base coat, and in order to go over the walls with my second coat of a coloured, I'm going for like a lighter grey sort of colour, then I just got to do some prep work. And I've got to the point where I thought probably best now to sand back the architrave skirting board and add any filler or caulk where I need to. Then I'll put my grey on the walls and then I'll go back over then and do my gloss. I'm obviously using the MDF skirting board and architrave, which has already been primed, which is great. The other thing I'm going to be doing is adding a bit of wood filler to any joints or gaps that I feel are significant where I was fitting the architrave or skirting board, and I'm going to put some fine multi-purpose filler in any small tiny hairline cracks I've got in any of the paintwork or the plaster. And the wood filler I'm using on the skirting board and the architrave is this Ronseal 2-part wood filler, and that's just where you use like an accelerator and you mix it yourself with the filler, and it gives you about 15, it says 20 minutes on the tub you've got, but no, I'd say 10-15 minutes if it's warm. It goes off very quick, but it's good because it goes off quick and it's very hard. I find this sands back really nicely. I find some of the multi-purpose fillers, they're really good, and for a DIYer they're really quick. You just get them in and they're very workable. I find they tend to expand and crack a bit afterwards quite often, so not taking any chances. I'm going with the wood filler this time. And then I'm just using this no-nonsense fine surface filler. I haven't actually used this particular product before, but I'm going to give that a go where there's any fine hairline cracks in the plaster. We'll sand this back with a fine grit sandpaper, and then we can go over with the paint. But now, just so you can see where we are with the room, I'll give you a quick look at the 2 coats of paint. So there you go, you can see that all painted, just round the corner there. As I come across here, I've done outside as well, all the landing up there, so the lights are ready to fit actually there. Ceilings I'm happy with. In the little space there. And there's all the paintwork. I've gone into those corners around the chimney breast. The other thing I'm going to do is use a dark grey masonry paint on the render, on the chimney breast. And I'm actually going to use that same masonry paint on the hip rafters, believe it or not. People might say, what are you using that for? I've used masonry paint on timber loads of times before. I find it bonds very well. Actually gives quite a nice finish. So I've done a bit of filling with that Ronseal 2-part filler. You can see there, I just put that on over 2 screw heads there. I actually removed the screws. They were just temporary ones on this bit of architrave to hold this up when I was using the adhesive. So I've taken those out and I filled that. You can see it's slightly raised, and it's best to have it slightly raised. You don't want to pull it too flush because you'll have nothing left to sand back. So I'll be sanding that in a minute when we go on the time lapse. I've done the same there. You can see it was slightly discoloured. I put a bit in the corner. That was one bit of skirting where I actually misjudged the cut, and I didn't want to waste the whole length of skirting board, so I thought, you know what, it's down in the corner there, I don't care, I'm painting this all white anyway. So I left it, put it into place, and I've just filled that with wood filler. Bit of a chimp job, yes, but I'm not wasting stuff at that price just to fill a 5mm gap, which otherwise is going to be filled over and painted anyway. Right, now I painted it once already to see if it'd fill the gap, but it didn't. So I'm going to use this fine surface filler, no nonsense, and it says if you put it on at about 3mm, it should be about half an hour to an hour setting time, which means I can put this on now, paint the other side of the room. I can sand this back just before I get to this bit of the wall. That's the plan anyway. So I'm just going to put a little bit on now. I'm just going to drag any excess off like that. Leaving the bit I filled above the crack slightly raised to sand back. I just don't want any more on there than I need when I'm painting. Right, so as it happens, I had a few things to do, and actually the 2 bits of filler that I've put in the loft have actually gone dry already, so I'm going to sand this back with I'm going to use a 180. These are just my sanding discs actually for my Makita orbital sander. I haven't got any other sandpaper here, so I'm making do with these. I got these really cheap on Amazon, and they're really decent actually. I'm very impressed with that. I haven't used that before. I said that's the no nonsense fine filler, and that is really smooth. Just a little bit of light 180 on that. And I got another one by here as well, so I'm going to do the same with that. So that's all sanded back. Now I'm ready to apply the emulsion to the wall, so I'll stick it back on a time lapse and you can see how we get on. now, so it's difficult to differentiate the colour I've just put on with the whites on the ceiling, but I'll show you that in a second. Basically, I've got that colour on, the grey, all around the sides. I've got the white on now on the ceiling, like I had previously. I sanded down all the architrave and skirting earlier, so all the bits and paint are off that. I never had a chance to do the cork after, so I'm going to try and get up here later on, after my daughter's in bed. I'll cork up all the skirting and the architrave. I'm going to use my POUSE sealant kit to take that down nicely, so it's basically so the cork is only behind the skirting board. So I'll scrape it all off the nice new paint I've done, so it's just filling any gap behind the skirting rather than sometimes you use your finger and it all smears up the back and ruins your paintwork. So to be honest, the plan really is now, rather than mess around with the stairs and that kind of thing, I'm just going to try and get this room completely finished. If I can get all this now sanded back, glossed, get the masonry paint on that chimney, there's not a lot left to do. And I'm thinking if I can just get a carpet strip across there when I have the carpet fitted, get a new carpet on here, I'll fit the door, then it means I can just close the door, carry on working down the stairs with the door closed so it won't affect the carpet. But once the carpet's in, it just means that I can get everything up from downstairs. I can use the cupboards for storage. It's going to basically solve a lot of problems that we've been having in the house for ages. My son is going to need his own room soon. That'll be sorted. This will be the office. I can put all my stuff for recording and filming and whatever, my laptop for YouTube, keep it on one desk. I'm always moving it around at the moment. I can move a lot of stuff out of the garage, bring that up and put it in here in storage, like our Christmas tree, Christmas decorations. Sounds stupid, but the storage I got in here now is going to give me loads more room in the garage, which means all my tools can go back in the garage neatly. I'll have room for the motorbikes and I won't be messing around clearing stuff out constantly and making life difficult for myself. So fingers crossed, we're getting there, we're almost done. And then I've given myself a task now of redecorating the hallway as well. So while I plaster the ceiling and wall, we can paint that with the new colour, paint the other walls the same colour all the way down the stairs. We'll get new carpet up the stairs. There we go, I think I've waffled on long enough there. I'm tired, that's the problem, I'm not thinking straight. So I'm going to go and clean all my stuff up now, and then downstairs, nice cup of tea and a bit of food I think. So see you next time.